Welcome, good morning. Today we're doing another point of view plein air painting demo, and we're going to be painting in acrylics on a 7x5 inch canvas panel using my handheld easel, using a pretty standard palette, ultramarine blue, a little bit of transparent orange oxide, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, cadmium red, cadmium yellow, Mars black, and I forgot my white, so I'm gonna have to put that on there too. Appreciate you checking out this video, this live stream, and we're gonna be painting this scene in front of us here. Mostly we'll have a representational, very literal attempt at this scene, but we'll bring our own flavor to it for sure. Occasionally I'll talk through my thought process. Occasionally, try it. We're here on the trail that runs behind Blue Mountain Lake, which is the community that I live within in the Poconos. And I'm gonna go ahead and tilt my camera angle down a little bit so you have an easier time following along. Now we're using thick-bodied acrylic paint, mostly from Golden. So every color you see on here is thick-bodied acrylic paint from Golden, with the exception of the transparent orange oxide here. That's from Liquitex. I choose that just because it's a little bit more vibrant than the other brands that I've explored. A lot of the other brands will have a transparent orange oxide that is has more of an earthy brown tint to it, and I want the vibrancy just to bring a little bit of life and color vibration to these quick sketches that I do out in the field. Little dollar store spritzer filled with water. Acrylic paint is water soluble, dries fast, so we want to keep it moist. And one last little detail before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and set my timer. I'm going to try and make sure that I work for no more than about an hour. If I get done quicker, great. If I don't, that's fine too. I just want to tend to lose track of time, so I want to make sure that I have a sense for what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and take my brush and a bunch of my transparent orange oxide on my moisturized canvas, and just tone my canvas here. And I'll probably work in a little bit of a yellow ochre, a couple bits of yellow ochre into this, and also burnt sienna. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this canvas directly while the paint is on there. And that'll just help me move this paint around a little bit more and get the entire canvas panel covered. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and use some shop cloth to map out some of the composition here. Oh, and let me show you how I'm going to not sight size, I'm going to size this. I have my makeshift sighting tool, which is going to be my brush, and my middle finger and index finger on each hand, and my thumb. And I'm just going to slide to adjust what the composition will be. And I think it's going to be that roughly. If you can see that, that's roughly what I'm aiming at for my composition. That's just directional. I could definitely move things around, shift things, edit things, leave things out, and undoubtedly will. Okay. Let's see. So I'm gonna take my little shop towel, have it kind of folded into a nub, and we're gonna map out roughly where these things are gonna reside. We're gonna have the brightest part of this scene is the upper right quadrant where the sun is shining, and that'll move quite a bit. So we're not going to worry about trying to replicate the intensity of that light, but I just want to put some little marks suggesting that, and then we'll have some up here. And then the pathway, suggestion of the pathway. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of a finer brush, maybe an angle brush like this, which this one, it really doesn't matter the size, the larger the better actually, but this happens to be a number 2. And we'll go ahead and create a little dark purpley gray. And we'll use this to map out some of the darker shadow patterns. One will be here at the front edge of the decking on this little bridge. The bottom rails will be pretty dark as well, but they'll be lit up by little bits of sunlight. The front edge of the railings will certainly be dark because they're in their own shadow. I'll tell you, there's been a lot of bear activity here lately, so if by chance you see me or hear me scrambling, that might be why. Something like that. We're exaggerating. We're exaggerating the single point perspective there a little bit. There's a tree right here. Just want to kind of suggest the taper of that tree. Get some of the other trees that are coming up. And then we're actually gonna, this is gonna get reduced a little bit this side over here. But we'll just paint over that because we want to leave enough room for suggestion of the trail. All right, so we're going to make a few more marks with this gray. We're going to lighten it up just a little bit though. We're going to use a little bit of yellow ochre and a little bit of our cad red, a little bit of our blue, more of a greenish, grayish purple. And these trees off to the right, I gotta be careful because you wanna honor what's going on here. They're all leaning over to the open space out in the lake, looking for that sunlight. But at the same time, I don't want it to lead the eye out of the painting if I could avoid doing that. So we'll have to come up with some clever ways to kind of keep the viewer's eye in the painting, circulating around the painting, and it'll probably be by way of brushstrokes and suggestions of branches and that sort of thing. Now on this side of this bridge, we have some stones. I'm doing a little bit of drawing here. I won't spend a lot of time doing this, and I won't do a complete drawing. I just want to, some of the major structures I want to have just some guidelines, some guardrails, if you will, for me. There's a big hill that comes down to this trail. And on this hill, at all different points on the hill, there's trees. And then there's a stone gully, and there's some fallen trees. And you even see some evidence of this hill off in the distance with get some suggestion of those slats and some of the slats here. So you can see we did a little bit of a drawing over the top of that, over the top of the wash of orange oxide, transparent orange oxide, which toned the canvas, a little bit of a dark grayish purple. And from here, let's continue working. I'm gonna go ahead and lay in a couple of different shades of green. I'm gonna use a flat brush here. So I'm gonna create a puddle of kind of a dark sap green right here. And there's gonna be quite a bit of it. It's summertime in the Poconos, so a little bit of cad yellow, a little bit of Mars black, a lot of yellow ochre. It's a big puddle of this dark sap green. And we're gonna get that and use that in just a minute. But I also wanna wipe out my brush here. And I'm gonna use cad yellow and ultramarine blue. You get a little bit of a more vibrant green. Still a little washed out, a little desaturated because I have some of that sap green going on. And one more puddle. A little bit of my burnt sienna, a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of ultramarine blue. All right, so we have 3 greens. We have a dark, mid, and a vibrant green. I'm going to start with the dark, which will lighten up a little bit because I have those other versions on my brush. And I'm just going to start getting little bits of that all around. And I'm not going to worry too much about details. It's just general shapes that I see all around the scene here. And directional brush strokes indicating kind of mostly evergreen foliage. And you kind of look at the nature of that. You could emulate the energy with your brush strokes. This is a bright, has that flat edge, and I could use that to very quickly suggest the movement of those evergreen brush strokes. And we do have some deciduous trees as well, and they'll follow the same direction. Branches are gonna kind of fold in or angle into this open pathway as they look for ways to get more sunlight. And this is kind of it's right in the middle between warm and cool, maybe slightly cool. So there's a little bit more blue because of the use of the black in there. We'll switch to our mid-tone green here. I'm gonna bring a little bit more yellow ochre into it, a little bit of blue. There we go. A little brighter than that, a little darker than that. And we're gonna go ahead and get that in. Looks like a big mess right now, and it might stay that way. Every painting has an ugly phase, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Trying to paint a little bit and draw a little bit every day kind of increases your chances of being able to work out of this ugly phase with more consistency. But we do have paintings that just don't go well sometimes, and that's fine. All right, before we go in and start laying in some of the brighter green, I'm gonna do a little bit of work on this this decking here. I'm gonna use, probably should go a little bit bigger than this, but this is what I have. This is a little number 1 bright. That's the shape of the brush. It's like a flat, but those bristles are kind of angled in a little bit and you get a little flat edge. So I'm gonna use that to my advantage with this decking. I'm gonna mix up a little bit of yellow ochre and burnt sienna. little touch of ultramarine blue. Don't want the decking to be too warm. And I think that's pretty close. It's a little too yellow. I'm gonna get a little black in there, a little blue. There we go. And we're just gonna use this to lay in suggestion of this decking area here. This is kind of like the average, if you will, color that I see amongst the portions of the deck when I look at it that are in shadow. And there's certainly going to be little flicks of light and darker shadow and such that we add in to suggest some of the structure in a little bit more detail, but this is pretty much the average color that I see. And when you're painting on plein air like this, it's really important to move quickly. The light's going to consistently change. All right, I'm going to come over and mix in a little bit of white into this color, this existing color right here. And we're going to use this to come over the top and suggest some of that light. Lit up decking area. A little bit more yellow, a little bit more burnt sienna, a little white, a little bit of this purple. Get that in there too. A little bit more white. Good. And all right, don't want to spend too much time here. Just wanted to get some of those color temperature variations in there worked into that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use the same brush, and we're going to start getting a little bit more of a vibrant green here. A lot more cad yellow, a lot more ultramarine blue, a little touch of yellow ochre, occasionally maybe some other colors worked in there, including some white. And we're just going to start accounting for some of the brighter greens. There'll be a little bit of a dance back and forth where we'll minimize some of these greens and then maximize some of these greens in some areas, and we'll realize we slipped up and need to adjust. The light will change. It's constant evaluation and editing. At some point you will have to paint from memory to support the painting and make sure that it makes sense, because if you chase the light all the time, you'll end up with a big mess. I don't want to paint over too much of these dark areas, but I do want some interplay between the lighter and darker green. It'll create the illusion of detail. And And this is not the lightest green. This is not the most intense green. This is probably the lightest mid-tone green that we'll use. A little bit more on the brush. We'll get some in the foreground here. And there's some here. Kind of starting to come together slowly. All right, now I might key in the sky color. Use a thicker angle brush here. This is a, what is this, number 10. So it'll be a little clumsy, but I'm gonna use a little bit of my titanium white and a little touch of our ultramarine blue, a little bit more white, a little bit of yellow ochre. That's a little too much. There you go. And maybe a little bit of our burnt sienna. A little bit more white, and I think we're good. This is not the brightest version of the sky tone, but I want to get some in there so we can constantly evaluate where we're at with the other values in the painting relative to, oh yeah, and that's too dark. I'm gonna go a lot lighter here. I'm gonna build this out actually from this puddle of white. And I'll touch a cad red. I think it's the forest fires in Canada. Some of the elements of that have floated down here, and we do see kind of a red tint in this hazy morning sky that we have here. So especially toward the horizon line, I'm going to get some of that in there. We'll go bluer as we go higher, but just want to make sure I'm accounting for that. We're going to paint over a lot of these marks. Okay. And there's some reflected light there. That's not necessarily sky, but just use that paint to suggest it. Okay. All right, now we're gonna get another angle brush. Hold on one second. I just want to make sure I'm not getting. All right, I need to just look behind me. I wasn't sure if I heard some rustling that was indicative of an animal. I don't see anything. This trail, if you follow this trail, hasn't been the case. We've lived here for about 30 years almost. Hasn't always been the case, but occasionally this happens. If you follow this trail all the way to its end, it comes out to a road on the other side of the lake. And just before that intersection, if you follow the trail this summer, there's a ton of bear scat. So there's likely to be either a den nearby, or it just happens to be a common pathway that they follow as they forage for food. And needless to say, just don't want to run into, even though black bear don't want anything to do with us, don't want to run into one, and definitely don't want to surprise one. So I wouldn't say I'm on high alert, but just cognizant of that. So I'm going to get a little bit of a burgundy. Take some of this existing purple, a little bit of my burnt sienna and cad red, a little bit of my blue. Kind of a dark purple that's leaning toward more of an earth tone. We're going to use that to indicate the bed of leaves and fallen sticks and stuff that make up most of the ground. On this hill. And we'll cool it and darken it a little bit in some areas, like here in that area. And then we'll make sure our entire canvas is covered. All right. And we'll use the same color to suggest very loosely oops, that's all right. Some of the smaller trees. There we go. All right, it's coming along. Not too pretty. It's in its ugly phase, but we'll get it a little bit closer. You know, I'm going to use this existing brush. Go into my yellow ochre. A little bit of white. And we're just going to continue on with the effort to get this decking closer to where it needs to be. There's some definite shadows. A little bit of lighter color going here. All right, just a few broken lines here and there. I'm gonna get a warmer color mixed in here. Every now and again, the sunlight's gonna be filtering through. Now I'm gonna get a different brush and we're gonna map in some of the cooler colors that might make up some of those areas in the background that are hard to see because of the lighting, but they're there, suggesting maybe the other opposing shore of the lake, maybe some foliage that's well off into the distance. So a nice cool desaturated mint green is what we're mixing up. It's what the direction we're aiming at. And we're going to see that in a lot of different areas, particularly on this side. I'm going to get a little bit more of it mixed up here. So I'm going to take some of those greens and mix up a little blue and white, maybe even a little bit of purple. Just suggesting that there might be something going off in the distance, which there is. There's a lake and a shoreline on the other side, and then also we don't want to do away with all that nice warm color, but we do want to have some of this cool color alongside of it, working together to create the suggestion of some distance. And we're gonna work that same color into our pile of purple here. And we'll use this for the stones that are facing up toward the sky. All right. Then we would get some of this on the planking and within and amongst the trees. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to get a slightly warmer version of this. I'm going to get some yellow ochre. I'm going to mix it right into that pile. And maybe darken it or desaturate a little bit with black. A little bit more yellow ochre. Ooh, something big just flew over the tree canopy here. I wonder if it was an eagle. More likely an osprey, I guess, maybe, or a blue heron, probably. It's probably more likely to be the case. And we're going to use this just to break up some of these stronger orange spots, just a little bit. Don't want to break up all of them. All right, here we go. It's coming along. All right, I'm gonna use the same brush and I'm just gonna darken the right side of the railings that are upright because those are in their own shadow. And we're gonna do that just with vertical strokes. And then we'll use the same color very carefully elsewhere as well. Select usage of it. All right. So I know this is hard to see because of the lighting, but I'm pretty happy with where we're at right now. I'm gonna get a bigger pile of our bright green going, mostly cad yellow, ultramarine blue. We'll start here, but we'll probably mix in an orangey rust version of this that has a little bit of those two colors in, and we're gonna start Getting a suggestion of some of those flecks of light lit up batches of foliage. This is acrylic paint, so it dries fast. So even though we're painting alla prima technically, which means to complete the painting in one setting, one of the nice things about this is you'll be able to come over the top of the layers that you lay down. With oil paints, you kind of have a limit to that because the paint starts to get so thick and it stays wet sometimes, especially if you don't use a drying chemical of some sort for weeks in some cases. So as we put in these layers, we can come right over the top, which is kind of nice. With acrylic paints. I will say the one thing I notice about acrylics, which I had read about and heard about, is that they tend to darken. So the initial painting that you start with might look nice and vibrant, and then it dries and it doesn't stay as vibrant in some instances. Whereas oil paint sometimes gets more magnificent over time, it seems. So, if I had my choice, if I had unlimited time, I'd be painting on a large scale with oil paints, but I don't have unlimited time. Other things I need to do. So this is a way to get the work in, sometimes even creating pretty decent paintings along the way. Okay, I'm gonna stop there with that. I'm gonna switch to a cooler bluish green. Just get a little bit more yellow in there, a little bit more yellow. There we go. And I'm going to use this to suggest some of the foliage that's in shadow, including some of the ferns. Including some of the moss. And some of the deciduous tree foliage that's in shadow. And some of the evergreen foliage that's in shadow as well. And the base of this bush right here. We are in a situation where there's not a real clearing in the trees, so the trees will come all the way to the top of this painting. Oh, I guess some construction's going on across the lake. Alrighty. All right. So, I'm gonna get a nice light gray going. A little black, a little bit of the white. And a little touch of burnt sienna. There we go. Just gonna use this on our decking here. of suggested lines for those vertical slats that are in between the big support slats. Do see a little rim of light on the outer edge of that railing. Okay, we are getting there. I'm liking where this is at so far. I'm gonna go ahead and use the same brush and go into our sky color here. I think it needs to be a little brighter, so I'll probably just need a ton of white. And we're gonna work on some of these sky holes a little bit more. I think it's funny, you know, plein air painting, it's a French term, plein air, describing painting outdoors in nature. I think the name sometimes will throw people off. They'll think, oh, okay, it's gonna be some artist that's, you know, wearing a beret, uh, you know, with a pipe and fancy clothes, fancy gear, painting, and it is so not that. It's you know, there's bugs, there's snakes, there's you know, sweating your butt off on hot summer days. There's it really, it's dealing with, you know, surprise thunderstorms when you're in the middle of nowhere, dealing with strange through hikers when you're on a popular hiking trail that kind of give you the creeps sometimes because they're looking at you funny and it might have nothing. They might just be curious. More often than not, that's the case. But there's all kinds of weird scenarios. There's dealing with the anxiety of people looking over your shoulder while you're working. Sometimes you don't realize it, and then it really gets scary because you realize, okay, I didn't know this person was here for 15 minutes. But anyway, I think the term, the fact that it's a French term, kind of throws people a little bit and kind of creates a misconception of what this type of painting process is all about. It's really about, really is impressionism in its true sense. You're just working to gain an impression of a moment. What I like about it is it forces you to be absolutely present. While obviously I am using my screen, my phone, to record this, whether it's live or pre-recorded, totally detached from it. All right, get a little bluer purple. For the shoreline here. Darker purple here, going for bluish purple. And we're gonna come over the top with that. And we'll get some of it in here, suggesting some of the rocks. All right. I'm gonna use the same brush and we're gonna come through with a dark purple, black, right in this gray already. Black, blue, red. Nice purple to restate some of these tree trunks. These vertical tree trunks will often be amongst the darkest shadow shapes, darkest in value within a landscape painting, because they're going to be in their own shadow. The ground planes are going to be reflecting the light of the sky, so they're typically going to be lit up, which is why you see that decking suggested and such a bright value relative to the rest of the painting. Go ahead and use the same color. Try and suggest some of these tree branches. Don't want to overdo it with these horizontal tree branches. Just want to kind of get the viewer, trick the viewer into thinking that they see more detail than we're actually representing here. All right, well, we'll come through and actually a little bit of black mixed into that dark purple. We're gonna enhance nice. Gotta mix up a bluish purple. And we're gonna get a little bit of burnt sienna in there. A little bit of the white. We're gonna use this to very roughly suggest some of these shadows here, there, and everywhere. few more touches with our most intense green that we can come up with. So it's going to be some ultramarine blue, cad yellow, probably a little bit of white. It'll desaturate it a little bit, but it'll just make it a little bit brighter. I'm more concerned with the value than anything here, meaning the relationships of lights and darks. And there we go. Just put a little flecks of that in here, there, and everywhere. Definitely need some of this. The pathway here. Kind of dry brushing. And we're going to use the same brush. We're going to get a little bit of our purple, and we're going to lighten it up quite a bit. And just extend these streams of light up the hill where, oh, maybe some of the light is, we're going to use it to suggest maybe some light off of these tree trunks. Okay. And same for this guy here. Toward the bottom. All right, and a few last touches. I'm gonna do some really warm highlights, mostly white and yellow ochre, maybe a little touch of transparent orange oxide. And a couple of spots, maybe here, maybe here, maybe some of the spots there, maybe. And then maybe some light sweeping across here. And maybe it's even here. All right. I think we will leave it here for now, for the most part. I think this is where we're gonna wrap up this scene. I appreciate you checking out my work, and I might work on this a little bit to get a little bit more of the sky color into that area off to the right before we wrap up, maybe suggesting that we can see the lake. Let's see. There you go. Come through one more time and strengthen. There we go. Some of these tree trunks. I think we're done. Thanks for checking out the channel. Check out some of the other educational content on the channel. I'm trying to live stream as frequently as I can with these point of view plein air painting sessions. And there's a ton of content out there. Uh, painting book reviews and myriad of other things, including um, some conceptual things, some lessons, kind of a review of the compositional strategies that are put forth by Edgar Payne in his book of Composition of Outdoor Painting. So a ton of content available. Check it out, if you will. If you enjoy it, if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe. It's helpful. And hope to see you again soon. Also, check out the link, by the way, in the comment section. Put a link in there that'll, if you're interested, you could register for my newsletter. I won't spam you. I'll just keep you abreast of any of the workshops that I have and share some insights that I learn along the way. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Hope to see you again soon. Take care.